Welcome to Discovering the Wellness Formula. I'm Ashley Glantz.
And I'm Dustin Messick, and we are both registered dietitian nutritionists. We're here to promote wellness through the lens of nutrition and so much more, helping you navigate the journey by bridging the gap between reliable information and misinformation.
Together, we'll provide you with a clear blueprint of knowledge and actionable steps to support your health and well-being.
And here's our disclaimer. The information provided on this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or health concerns.
Our podcast, Discovering the Wellness Formula, dives into all domains of health, whether it's discussing mental health strategies, nutrition tips, fitness approaches, or exploring how relationships and personal growth contribute to our overall well-being. We aim to make wellness more accessible and inclusive for everyone.
Welcome back, everyone, to Discovering the Wellness Formula. Today we have special guest Dr. David Lee, who has been in full-time practice for 26 years. He earned his PhD in Oriental Medicine from American Liberty University and a master's degree in Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine from Emperor's College in Santa Monica. He completed externships at Arthur Ashe UCLA Student Health Center and Daniel Freeman Hospital in Marina del Rey. Dr. Lee also holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from UC Irvine with pre-medical coursework. Since 2022, he has served as president of the Korean Acupuncture and Asian Medicine Association in Los Angeles. Through his own health challenges and years of clinical practice, Dr. Lee has developed an evolutionary medical system combining acupuncture, diet, and herbs. His work integrates traditional Oriental medicine with modern understanding of health, offering practical methods for personalized healing. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
What first got you interested in acupuncture and Oriental medicine?
I was interested in healthcare. I was a recent undergraduate as a biology psychology major from UC Irvine, and I was going to different schools, nurse practitioner or other type of schools that I could be in. And I spoke with an acupuncturist, and the acupuncturist said I could do things that are considered stubborn, and I could fill in the gap. I like that idea. One is that I could do things that are considered difficult, or I could help improve health conditions that are considered not easy to treat. And the other is that I don't have to be in competition for it. Like it will be an area where not so many healthcare people are being concentrated in. Okay. And I still, after 26 years of practice, seeing majority of patients who are of that situation, stubborn and chronic. I remember at that time that I did get acupuncture, and I was an avid basketball player in high school and college. I remember the strain of the ankle was a repeated thing every 2 months and takes 2 to 3 weeks to recover from. This time, I recovered half as quickly, and I was surprised just with one acupuncture treatment. And I didn't think of it until later on. It's like, oh, okay, because acupuncture is not something that I was exposed to that much, and not many people talked about it. But I decided to learn a new language and see if I could be productive. That's how I got in. A little bit of an experience, and an acupuncturist told me that I could treat stubborn conditions, and I noted that those stubborn conditions are stubborn enough that there's not going to be a huge number of healthcare practitioners trying to treat those. Or maybe there have been, and I'm just going to be there to see if I could be of help.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I personally am excited to learn a little bit more about acupuncture. And I imagine a lot of our listeners are. So, if you could kind of share a brief history of acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine with us.
The history of acupuncture, Chinese medicine, East Asian medicine, different names because we have different regions. China, Korea, Japan. I'm Korean, by the way. The canon of acupuncture is called the Yellow Emperor's Classic. Was finished in China by the Chinese in 1300 AD. And many authors had contributed to it over time. And since it was finished 1,300 years ago, nobody was able to fundamentally change any information within it. They're able to add, they're able to discover what they mean by what they say, but nothing fundamentally had changed. By then, things have been pretty much set. The acupuncture points. So there are two types of acupuncture points. Acupuncture points that are mm, repeated in the textbooks, and there are acupuncture points that are outside of those. But any place you place a needle in the skin is an acupuncture point, because through history of time, been there, done that. And in that canon of acupuncture, it says that or canon of acupuncture and Oriental medicine, the Emperor's Classic, the Yellow Emperor's Classic. That is the title of the book. It says that acupuncture came from the East. At that time, east of China, well, the word China is means middle country. Zhongguo. Zhong means middle. Guo means country. And east of Zhongguo, which is China, is what used to be Korea. Manchuria, the land of Manchuria is above North Korea. And that's where they discover stones that are fashioned as acupuncture needles. The name, it escapes my head. It's volcanic type of rock. Is crystalline. It's like glass. It's glass-like, and they fashion even here in the North America. The Native Americans, they made arrowheads out of them, and so those are made into needles, and they found those acupuncture needles in the east of China, which used to be north of Korea. And the history goes way back, because who knows what they used prior? Maybe they might have used stone, but not stone, bones, but they deteriorate over time. You heard of the Yotzi man, Otzi? He was discovered in the Italian Alps, east of Italian Alps, and he was dated to be around 5,500 years old. They found 62 tattoo marks on his body. Either majority or most of them correlate are identified as acupuncture points, and they correlate with the conditions that he had at that time, arthritis or internal condition. And he was not an Asian. He was a mountain man in Europe. How far does acupuncture go? Ah, nobody knows. Even there's folklore in North America and Middle America that certain parts of the indigenous people, they used cacti needles or sharp plant parts to prick on their skin. And even grandparents today say, "Oh yeah, I recognize something like that." Okay, so how far acupuncture does it go, and who started it? That's a good question. But the book was finished 1,300 years ago, and the I'm South Korean. In Korea, it is more difficult to get into an Oriental medical school than Western school. It's valued very high, in other words.
It's really interesting. Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. Like, and you kind of talked on something that I thought was interesting. A while back, me and my brother were talking about whether or not acupuncture works. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, no, they did this study where they put an acupuncture pin like anywhere in the body, and they found that there was no different than putting it into the meridian points." And you just said that any point you put an acupuncture needle into is technically an acupuncture point.
Mm, okay, I'll be more specific about that. Yes,
Okay.
there is traditionally well-known acupuncture points, and then there is empirically known acupuncture points. That means by experience, people have handed those points down because they work, but they're not part of the repeated in the textbook
Mm.
points. And then there's what you call ashi points. Ah means exclamation. Shi, shi is a Chinese word for here. Here it is. I feel it. Okay, that's what you call a trigger point.
Yeah.
So then I have a question about what you call the dry needling. The word dry needling is a new terminology,
Uh-huh.
and they're saying dry needling is not acupuncture.
Hmm.
Why? Because if you want to do acupuncture, you got to go through full time 4 years of school. If you
Oh,
say
okay.
no, it's not acupuncture, it's dry needling, then you get to do 200 hours, and you're allowed because more than half the United States have been lobbied into it. You could
Wow.
get certification for it.
I love that you just brought that up. So many of my clients are doing dry needling right now. And I personally was wondering the difference between acupuncture and dry needling.
Yeah, well,
Same thing.
here's the trigger point. Okay, that's an acupuncture point. All right, and then does acupuncture work? Well, the points have to be relevant for that individual. Okay, if it's not relevant, it's not gonna work.
Hmm.
Or if it's relevant, it may work, but if it is optimal, then it is noticeably good.
Hmm.
Therefore, any spot on the body are not equal. Okay, the trigger points are not as relevant as the optimal points.
Hmm.
Okay,
Wow. Well, I think the my next question for you might kind of connect to what we're talking about right now, which is how is chi or ki? I think ki is how it's pronounced. And the
well,
system.
potato, potato.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Chinese pronunciation is chi.
Okay. So that.
Korean and Japanese pronunciation is ki.
Oh, okay. Oh, that okay.
Yeah.
So how is chi or ki and the system of meridians explained across the different traditions?
Most practitioners or most people did not have a need to define the word chi.
Hmm.
Okay. We breathe air. Okay. Do we have to define air? Maybe. Especially when we have to identify exactly what it is. So therefore we find oxygen or molecules that are in the air. And that's one way to understand how things are. But there's also another way to understand just by accepting what they are. Through history of time, the word qi, yin and yang, tai chi, uchi. Uchi means nothing before something happens. And there's extreme state, good, good chi. And those have been debated by scholars, heated debates to point of high conflict over history of time. Okay? But those are just select few. Most people accepted that chi works, and therefore they started getting into it right away rather than stepping back and go, okay, I gotta know what this is before I deal with it. Okay. I have to give you an analogy to bring sense of the word chi. Okay. Before I give you the analogy, the word chi means just energy. Everything is made up of energy. Everything. And therefore, however, whatever you say, you're correct. It just, to what extent are you correct? And how relevant is it to what you're dealing with at hand? It's that flexible and it's that vague, and therefore it's not graspable. Okay. In healthcare, we use the word chi. In politics, chi. Economics, chi. Okay. Even luck, chi. Because everything is energy. But the context that you bring it in, now you start forming it into a definition. At a certain point, we never agree with one another because it's a perspective. Okay. And so in healthcare, you call it vital energy just to make a sense out of it. Okay. But there's many different aspects of what that vital energy is. All right. Analogy. There's specific, and then there's whole that is greater than some of its parts. Okay. That's why we call it Western versus something else. Okay, Eastern, Western. What do you mean by Western when you say Western? Western philosophy is looking down to the details. Cut everything up down to the details. The beauty of it is that we get this thing called quantum energy that we could utilize. Okay, that's how beautiful Western concept is. And we have really nice cars too. Modern technology. Because we know all these little different parts and we could put them together. It's a bottom to up process. Okay. Analogy is like a Lego. You put Lego pieces together, you get a castle as an example. Is there a castle in the Lego piece? No. Or you could look at a computer screen. Lots of pixels. Is there a picture in each pixel? Are we talking about fractal here? No. Okay. Whole that is greater than sum of its parts is at a different layer. I could give another type of analogy, like a soul. Okay. Does chameleon have a soul? Good question. Do we have a soul? That's another good question. But if you use the word concept, the whole which is greater than some of its parts, we'd say human beings have a higher quality soul than a chameleon soul. Because we are made up of so many different things synergistically working together that it comes out as a more complexity whole of a soul. Going back to that analogy about Lego pieces, you get a castle as an example. And we agree that we see a castle when we see one. All right? But how do you know it's a castle, not a large mansion or a large house? Do architects even agree on that? Is there an exact definition? No. Okay. Then how do you know one ends and another begins? We don't have an agreed upon definition. And we don't even have a device to measure what a castle is. Okay? It's not objective. Objective is using material device to measure material event. Subjective is using our own device, smelling, eyes, feeling, tasting, to measure an objective event. But subjective device, it varies wildly, although there is middle of the curve. It's uncomfortable in the public to use subjective device. But we all agree, castle exists. Okay. Lego piece, we could measure it. Its dimension, its weight, its color. It's just all very easily measurable. When we're dealing with the castle, we're dealing with the whole. It is a top-down approach. When you affect the whole, then all the pieces get affected indirectly, directly, more or less. Okay. When we use the word chi, what does that mean? Well, okay, it's an analogy like a castle. We agree to a certain point, and therefore we have over time working theory. Theory is better than hypothesis. Working means it's working. There's a pattern to it, and we could share this knowledge skill.
I really appreciate the use just saying, you know, it is subjective and it's the whole, which is greater than the sum of its parts, and really just kind of breaking down those analogies. It really helps us kind of better understand that. And when still continuing trying to understand a lot of these kind of pieces of the puzzle, what is the symbolism of the TCM elements in acupuncture, and how do they kind of relate to health?
Okay, all right. I'll give you a sequence here. Before anything had happened, there's a potential. Okay. Before the potential, there was nothing. Okay. Nothing. And then after nothing, there was a potential. And after the potential is a cusp before something actually manifests. Okay. And when you look at the yin and yang Tai Chi symbol, it's a circle with the S in the middle, right? And then one part of it is black, one part of the other part of it is white. Without the dots, it means it's a potential before something happens. But when you have the dots, that means it's a seed of the other happening. Therefore, it's active. There's a cycle to it. Yin and yang is 2. And then from yin and yang, there's 4, there's 8, there's 16, there's 32, and 64. 64 hexagrams. Hex means 6. 64 lines. So each of the 64 has 6 lines of yin line or yang line. And 64 is the furthest we could go to be able to handle it between our ears. Okay, so there are 64 variety of yin and yang. Where does 5 elements come in? This one is a different perspective. Okay. 5 elements means things are made up of 5 things instead of 2 things. 2 things yin and yang. 5 things is A, B, C, D, E. Wood, fire, earth, metal, water. Okay. Your wood. Wood like in the back? No. It's a symbol. Okay. Like Ayurveda has 5 elements symbol. Ayurveda is Indian medicine. It's 5,000 years old. They have 5 elements. It's it's air, ether, earth, fire, water. Okay. West has four elements. Let me remember correctly: air, earth, fire, water. Okay. Now, different traditions have different ways to break down things because you could look at the same thing and go, "Oh, I see five aspects in it," or you could look at that same thing and say there's two aspects in it. Okay. Five elements are relevant to my practice because using five elements, I'm able to utilize yin and yang. I'm able to also utilize Ayurvedic five elements, and this one is a kicker. I'm also able to utilize Western four elements. Okay. Western four elements have been around for thousands of years. Hippocrates, I think it was around 2,500 years ago. Is that right? He was the one who first put that four elements into practice by coming up with four humors: black bile, yellow bile, phlegm, and then blood. Okay, four of them. Over time, they changed into names, different names. Okay, choleric, sanguine, phlegmatic, melancholic. Recently, the names are now in four social styles: driving, influencing, steady, analytical. And this is even a higher kicker. Okay, the Myers-Briggs 16 personality types. 16 types. 4 times 4 is 16. Right? You go from 4 to 16 variety. And the Myers-Briggs community is claiming that these personalities are in the genes. What does that mean? That's what it means. Elements, unchanging. Okay? Genes are not changing. You're born with the DNA and you got the DNA through your life. Okay? It'll manifest accordingly. And these five elements are directly related to these Myers-Briggs type 2. Okay? Just looking at five aspects or four aspects or 16 aspects. As an example, Myers-Briggs, there's four functions: extrovert, introvert, and then second function is sensing, intuitive. Third function is thinking, feeling. Fourth function is perceiving, judging. Okay, those are psychological manifestation. Personality is what one is born with. We don't change our base personality through our life. Life experience definitely affect us and change us, but life experience is not the only. We're not born with a blank slate. We're born with set of information that are not changing, and they manifest psychologically as personality, physiologically, like allergy, intolerance to foods. You can't change that. You can mitigate it, but you ain't changing it. Okay. And our physical shape. Okay. We have varying physical shapes. That's also genetic. And when you look at the right parts, then you could see, oh, okay, that shape belongs to this type versus that type. Going back to the Myers-Briggs, I know I'm saying a lot here. Myers-Briggs sensing versus intuitive. Okay, sensing is a lot of wood and low metal. Intuitive is a lot of metal but low wood. Okay, you could name the same phenomenon with different words, and those different words have different meaning, leading to different type of application. but you're still treating the same person. Okay, this 5 element thing is an integrated, unified medical system of the natural system. Yeah. Then
That's
what is natural system? Natural system, we're talking earlier, Western medicine, Eastern medicine. Western thought, Eastern thought. Western thought is more of specific, down to the details, and then build it up. Okay. Eastern thought is more of a broad, and then going down to the specific detail. Okay, so two different directions that meet together. So you need both. All right. Natural medicine is help the body help itself. That's all that is. Help the body help itself. That's natural medicine. Then let's flip that. In biomolecular medicine, rather than saying Western medicine, let's use the word biomolecular. That is more specific, correct? Okay. In biomolecular medicine, think of any medicine that promotes healing. Help the body help itself. Can you think of one? Okay. Then what does biomolecular medicine do? It handles the process for the body. Correct? Okay. Then one is help the body help itself, and the other one is help for the body. Okay. Both are important. Help for the body means if you're in an emergency situation, you broke your bone, you got into a car accident, you fell, or you got a heart attack, or something, then you need to intervene. You need to save life. Okay, save life model. That's why you call it problem focused. Okay, and but let's say you have a chronic disease. You have a chronic disease. If you don't have a good means to treat it, well, you're gonna have to have something to control for the body. Okay, natural medicine has been doing a good job, but I think it could also better do a better job, do even better job than it is doing now by treating internal external diseases well. In that way, we don't need to rely on biomolecular as much. Okay, we need to have the body do a better job and do a good healing, therefore we need less of the other. Okay, although at times we need this or we need that depending on the situation.
so. Thank you for sharing all that. That I think was very helpful to see how East and West connects and how they have like a different focus.
I'm a little biased here because there's so much herbal medicine in Korea, and that they have, it's like different regions
Hmm.
have their own flavor, their own taste, like English, right? In the United States, different parts have their ways of speaking English, and also outside of the United States. Okay, right. So then let's call it acupuncture, dietary adjustment, and Chinese herb. Those are the top three in the practice of East Asian medicine, and there are other type of practices too. Using those three, you could treat external and internal diseases. External would be musculo, nervous system, joint issues, pain. Internal is organs, glands, immune system, and also part nervous system too. That means that through history of time, we were successful in treating human diseases in the East. About 150 years ago, a Korean doctor His name was Jema Lee, Jema Lee, Lee. He discovered a medical system within Chinese medicine. He called it constitutional medicine. It's a reorganization of what was present before, reorganization of application, but the theory is fundamentally different. Constitutional medicine and traditional Chinese medicine, or traditional Korean medicine, or you could say traditional Japanese medicine. The traditional East Asian medicine that has been present prior to his discovery of constitutional medicine was that it, it was a syndrome medicine. Okay? Syndrome is a collection of signs and symptoms. It was a syndrome medicine. Okay? Therefore, when you see the patient now, the patient will be different in the future. Okay? It was a mixture of disease focused and person focused when you use syndrome medicine, because you're using collection of signs and symptoms, and in order to make sense out of those, you talk about meridians. In order for you to make sense out of those, you talk about organ systems in our own language, because it's a way of categorizing things in their action and in their places. And because nothing does one thing, that you apply many things to that complexity of that category. Okay? That's what syndrome medicine is. But Dr. Gemma Lee, he said, I think we should look at this as a constitutional thing, a body type thing. You're born with it, and you're not changing. Okay? And that's what he did with the herbal medicine and diet. We recognize today allergic intolerant reaction. How do we treat them? Through biomolecular medicine, we introduce the allergen. We introduce the antigen, just a little bit so that the body could put up with it. Okay? Because symptoms get reduced and there's no really bad experience with people, that it's a nice treatment. Okay? And at times maybe people are cured. Okay? But you're essentially trying to have the body get used to that allergen. The Okay, and now I was going to say something about it, but I'll come back. The constitutional medicine is utilizing what you have, the potential for healing. Okay, and he provided the right molecular environment to the body. Okay, that is matching up with the person. That's why we're not dealing with putting up with the body, or the body putting up with the stuff. Okay, it herbal medicine or natural medicine is not using active ingredient. They're using supportive ingredients. We recognize today that the plant medicine has its place, but food and plants have been very difficult to study because of so many variables and because of so many subtleties. When you look at it as a whole, through history of time, using the same ingredients, we discover that certain things are here to stay. because they're just that good. And no adverse effect or minimal adverse effect. Especially when you match it up with the right person, there is no adverse effect. In the long run, it becomes anti-aging, health promoting, because you're allowing the genes to provide the information more efficiently, and because you're allowing the cells to function better. You're made up of cells. Everything in your body is cells, practically. And the cells functioning better means that they do their job properly. Therefore, the organs, each of the organs do better, glands do better, nervous system better, muscular system better, skin does better. Just by providing the right environment, because you already have the infrastructure. And that's what I discovered over time. Okay. And I, after graduation 26 years ago, I did acupuncture and herbs. And over time, I figured out that's how it is. How I got into the constitutional medicine system is because I was very sick.
That brings us to the end of part one of our conversation with Dr. David Lee. I hope you enjoyed exploring the fascinating history and philosophy behind acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, from the concept of qi to the wisdom of the five elements, and how these ideas continue to guide healing today. In part two, we'll shift gears and dive into Dr. Lee's personal health journey and learn a little bit more about what Dr. Lee's wellness formula is.
Our podcast, Discovering the Wellness Formula, dives into all domains of health, whether it's discussing mental health strategies, nutrition tips, fitness approaches, or exploring how relationships and personal growth contribute to our overall well-being. We aim to make wellness more accessible and inclusive for everyone.